this session we will talk about what you can expect in a typical Carnatic concert. A Carnatic concert of say 2 to 2.5 hours is likely to have 7 to 10 pieces. Each of these will be in a raga and a tala. When a performer selects and decides what she is to perform in a concert, there are some considerations that are kept in mind. One is obviously that if you are going to sing for 2.5 hours and there is an audience, you have to vary. There has to be some variety. You should avoid monotony of raga. So there has to be variety in the ragas. So if you have ragas, all of them with the same kind of swara, the same swaras, it's possible to have 10 different ragas, all of them derived from the same Janaka raga. So they are different ragas, but they will end up sounding similar, especially in a concert experience. So you have to deliberately vary ragas. So if I have sung a raga with say one variety of Rishabha, I have sung 2 pieces with that variety, I should try to introduce a piece with the other variety of Rishabha. So that breaks the monotony of the concert experience. And more equally importantly, there has to be variety in Tada and Laya. It's also expected that you include some great compositions of the Trinity. That gives the concert a solidity. Now, what about the Manodharma aspects? Now, not every composition is prefixed with an alapana. In fact, only 2 or 3, at the most 4 of these pieces would possibly have an alapana prefixed to it. Always there is one raga, always there is one piece in which the composition selected is usually a big composition, which is preceded by an elaborate alapana, which also has Neraval and Swaraprastaram, and which typically also will include a Taniyavartana. And this is called the main. And then you have what is called a sub-main, which is not so elaborately treated, but again you have an alapana and probably Swaraprastara. Then you may have 1 or 2 pieces in which just Swaram is performed. You may have a couple of compositions in which just the composition is sung. So this kind of variety in treatment is found in Carnatic concert. Unlike for instance in a Khayal concert or even Dhrupad concert, in a Hindustani concert, if you take a bandish, it's always alap, taan, boltaan, and all the elements are usually included in every piece of the concert, and that is not the case in Carnatic music. We could sing a very slow and magnificent padam, just the padam experience, or you could sing a very quick composition to give a variation in the tempo and to get the percussive accompanists to loosen up. So this sort of variety you find in Carnatic music, and the Ragam, Tanam, Pallavi, if it is included, it is usually included at the end of the concert, after which some lighter pieces are performed, so to say. We are winding down, and tilanas and javalis and devotional songs, these are performed towards the end of the concert. So we will talk about RTP now, Ragam, Tanam, Pallavi. Ragam, Tanam, Pallavi, it used to be that every concert included Ragam, Tanam, Pallavi. For the last few decades, though there has been some revival of a sort, but we do not hear Ragam, Tanam, Pallavi as a rule, although in prestigious venues like the Music Academy of Madras, Ragam, Tanam, Pallavi is almost always, it is expected that you sing an RTP, as it is called, in big concert, in any serious concert. So, Ragam Tanam Pallavi, in fact, as I mentioned before, a century or so ago, this is what most people heard in a Carnatic concert. The concert was essentially about a couple of 2 or 3 Ragam Tanam Pallavis in different ragas. Each Ragam Tanam Pallavi would go on for an hour or more. Now, what is Ragam Tanam Pallavi? Ragam here refers to Alapana. So, if you do RTP in a particular raga, say Kalyani, so the Ragam is sung extensively, exhaustively in Kalyani, followed by Tanam, and then you have the Pallavi. What is Pallavi here? You would remember Pallavi refers to the first section of a composition. But in this case, Pallavi refers to a single avartana of a composition. It is a composition that has only one single line. Now, this single line is set in a tala of usually of some complexity, and it can get very, very complex. So, the typical Pallavi would be this: Venkata Ramana Sankata Harana Tirupati Venkata Ramana Sankata Harana Tirupati Venkata Ramana. So, the Pallavi is just this: Venkata Ramana, Sankata Harana, Tirupati, Venkata. That's all. That is all the line is in the set. It is set in this tala. You can take a quick guess what tala it is. It is a Suladi tala. Venkata Ramana Sankata Harana Tirupati Venkata Ramana. A Pallavi has what is called a Purvanga and an Uttaranga. So, in this case the Purvanga is Venkata Ramana. The Pallavi's weight falls somewhere in the center on the usually in the beat after the Laghu, that is called Padagarbham or Arudhi. So, the portion before the Arudhi is called Purvangam and the portion after it is called Uttarangam. And how you construct a Pallavi, how you compose a Pallavi, there are expectations and conventions about it. This tala, if you have guessed, is Tishta Triputa Venkata Ramana Sankata Harana Tirupati Venkata. Now, this is, as talas for Pallavi go, very simple. You can have other jatis, you can have other talas, you can have nadai as in this Pallavi. Again, you can try and guess what tala it is. Gopika Manohara Mudakara Sudhakara Samaya Prabhaya Gopika Manohara Mudakara Sudhakara Samaya Prabhaya Gopika Manohara Mudakara. So, the the Pallavi is Gopika Mano Hara Muda Kara Sudha Kara Sama Prabha Gopika Mano Hara Muda Kara Sudha Kara Sama Prabha Gopika Mano Hara Muda Kara. So Gopika Manohara Mudakara, that is where the Padagarbham or the Arudhi falls. And this tala is Tishta Jampa, but Khanda Nada or Khanda Gati. That is, each matra has 5 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is Tishta Jampa. Jampatala, as you know, has one laghu followed by one anudrutam followed by a drutam. So that is what this was in Tishta Jati, because I had only 3 counts. I mean, the laghu had a value of 3. 1, 2, 3. And then there was an anudrutam, and then there was a drutam. And each matra, it was a khanda gati or khanda nada. So takka 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 takka. This is khanda nada Tishta Jati Jampatala. This is and this is also by certain standards not a very complex Pallavi. So once the Ragam Alapana is sung and then the Tanam is sung, then you have the Pallavi line is sung, and it is sung 3 or 4 times so that the accompanists get a hang of how the Pallavi is constructed. That you have to maintain at all costs, because after that you do Neraval, in which during which the words have to be kept in the same order, and you cannot really move the words here and there, not too much at any rate. In Pallavi singing, it is expected that you retain the compositional form as it is. Then you have Swara Prastara, usually in a Ragamalika, and then there is what is called Trikalam that is performed. So the Pallavi is sung at twice the speed and then at half the speed, and then sometimes Tishtam is performed. So this kind of laya exercise also happens, and that is why Pallavi, many people say that the word Pallavi here means Pada Laya Vinyasa. So there are laya exercises, you use the Pada or the Sahitya also to elaborate. So that is why Pallavi here stands for Pada Laya Vinyasa. So when the composition is sung at twice the speed, it is called Anuloma. When the composition is sung at half the speed, it is called Pratiloma. All the time the tala is maintained as it is. And then you have the Viloma Anuloma and Viloma Pratiloma also, where the Pallavi line is maintained in the original tempo, but the tala is performed at twice the speed and at half the speed. So these are all strictly laya exercises that are simply a matter of practicing hard and delivering it correctly with concentration. Now we will listen to Ramakrishnan Murthy as he performs an RTP. This is basically, the Pallavi is in Kapi. पीताम्बरधर प्रियनायिका मां पातु राधिका पीताम्बरधर प्रियनायिका मां पातु राधिका पीताम्बरधर प्रियनायिका मां पातु राधिका पीताम्बरधर प्रियनायिका. This is the Pallavi. The Talam. The Talam is Khanda Jati Triputta Tala Chatushram Nade. So it is P Tam Baradhara Priya Nayika Mam Pa Tura Dhika P Tam Baradhara Priya Nayika. This is how it is said. Ramakrishna Murthy has performed Ragamalika even in the Tanam. The Tanam itself has a sequence of ragas. The same ragas are sung in the Ragamalika Swaram after the Pallavi is sung. And there is a short Tani after the Pallavi has been wound up.
Tanam Anum tanum tadanum 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 tum tadanum tadanum anum tum tadanum tum tadanum 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 tum tadanum tadanum tum tadanum Anam tadaganam tadaganam tum tadaganam 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 Anam tadaganam tadaganam Anam tadaganam 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 tum tadaganam 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 tum tadaganam Dadanam dadanam tum dadanam 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 tum dadanam 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 Anam tadaganam tum tadaganam tum tadaganam udu tadaganam 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 tum tadaganam Anam tadaganam tum tadaganam tum tadaganam dada Anam tadaganam 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 Anam tadaganam tadaganam Anam tadaganam 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 Anam tadaganam 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 Anam tanam dadanam dum dadanam dadanam tanam dadanam dadanam ta Ayaganam tadaganam dadanam dadanam ta Anam tadaganam 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 tanam Anam tadanam Anam danam Anam tadanam Anam tadanam tadanam ta Anam dadanam tum dadanam tum dadanam tum dadaganam 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 ta Anam dadaganam tum dadaganam danam dadanam danam tum dadaganam dadanam dada Anam dadanam danam dadanam danam danam da Anam dadanam 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 Anam dadanam danam tum dadanam 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 tum danam danam Anam tanam Anam dadanam 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 Anam tanam tum dadanam tum dadanam அகனம் ததனம் தும் ததகனம் ததனம் ததகனம் அகனம் ததனம் 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 அகனம் ததகனம் ததனம் ததகனம் ததனம் ததனம் தும் ததகனம் த அகனம் தனம் ததகனம் ததனம் தனம் அகனம் ததனம் 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 அகனம் ததகனம் ததனம் 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 அகனம் ததனம் ததனம் தானம் ததனம் தும் ததகனம் ததகனம் ததனம் அகனம் ததனம் தூதரகனம் தூதரம் அகனம் ததகனம் ததரம் தகனம் தனம் ததனம் தூதரகனம் ததனம் தனம் ததகனம் ததனம் தனம் ததனம் ஆனம் ததனம் தரம் தரகரம் தானம் தரானம் தரகரம் தரானம் தரகரம் தரானம் தனம் தானம் தரகரம் தரகரம் தும் தரகரம் தரகரம் தனம் தானம் தனம் தும் தரகரம் தரகரம் தனம் தானம் தனம் அனம் தனம் அனம் தனம் ஆனம் தனம் தனம் நம் தத நம் தனம் தத ஆனம் தனம் பீதாம்பரதர பிரியநாயிகா பீதாம்பரதர பிரியநாயிகா மாம் பாத்துராதிகா 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 பீதாம்பரதர मधुराधिका पीताम्बरधर प्रियनायिका मधुराधिका पीताम्बरधर प्रियनायिका मधुराधिका पीताम्बरधर प्रियनायिका. Ni paga gari sari ni sa pamada maga gari sa ni da gari gaga tira gari sa tira mada di pitaambardhara priyanayika. Pamada maga gari sa pamada pamaga mari gari sa ri ma pamada madani sani gari sani sada pamada ni sapitaambardhara priyanayika. Pamada pamaga mari gari sa pamanida pamada gamagari sa sabanida gaga sagama pamanida ni mamaga mapanida sa panida gaga nisa pamaga magari ni nisa manida pamaga ma manida ni gari pitaambardhara priyanayika. sa ni da ni sa ni da pa pa ma ni da pa ga ma ma ga pa ma ri ri ma sa ri ma pa pa ma ni da ni ri sa ni da sa ni da pa da ma pa pa sa ni da ni sa ni ri sa ri ma ga pa ma ri ri ma ri sa ni sa ma ri sa ni sa ni sa ni da ni sa sa ni da pa ma ni da ma pa ga ma ga ri sa pa ni sa ga ma pa sa ga ma pa ni sa ga ni sa ga ma pa ma ga ri sa ni sa ri ga ma ri ga ri sa ni ga ri sa ni ri sa ri ni sa ni sa ri ni sa da ni da pa ma da ni sa ni ga ma ma da ni ga ri sa ni ga ri sa ni da ni ma da ni sa ri sa ga ri sa ni sa ri sa ni pa ma ga ri ma pa ni pi tam ba ra ra priya nayika ma pa Mampaturadhika pitambarara priyanayika 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 நாயிகா